This podcast is the sole property of Proud Sports. Our thoughts and opinions are our own.
Yeah. They say I walk like a king, talk like a king. You can act around now, say the same thing. They chasing the fame, they all want the name, but they ain't got what's running through these veins. Say I walk like a king, talk like a king. You can act around now, say the same thing. They chasing the fame, they all want the name, but they ain't got what's running through these veins. Make way for the king.
It's the Proud Panthers podcast. Stephen Beck here with you. The hometown podcast of everything High Point University basketball related at Proud Panthers on X or at Stephen Beck PS for information there. And also a part of ProudSports.com. And man, I should mention, just released a whole big, we'll call it redesign and refresh of the website. So if you haven't been over there, PROWLED sports.com, super cool stuff going on there, but more really to come this week. I'm telling you, if you really enjoy the content and kind of some of the stuff I've been doing, this is really cool. I'm excited to share it with you all coming up in the fresh week. But I should mention on that website refresh now, High Point University section standalone. That's really where this whole passion project thing started for me. And we have all sorts of coverage for you there from like myself and 3 or 4 other 5 different people devoted strictly to High Point University stuff. And man, I have my favorites. I have stuff that I really look forward to that I think are really cool. And if you haven't had a chance to see that, you should go out and check that out. We're going to be talking High Point basketball, of course, here on this episode. Unfortunately, it is the loss that was earlier this week, 92-75 in Rock Hill, that we're going to be getting to. Plus, more on Cam Fletcher as well. It's going to be coming up for you in just a second.
High Point University, the premier life skills university, is ranked the #1 best-run college in America by the Princeton Review. Employers value HPU's real-world preparation. Students love unprecedented access to global leaders on High Point's inspiring campus. And parents appreciate HPU's God, family, and country values. Choose to be extraordinary at High Point University.
Wake up the Carolina way. Hi, this is Stephen Beck. Join me every Saturday morning for Waking Up Proud. We've got local eats, hot sport takes, and a whole lot of Triad and Carolina flavor. From barbecue debates to big game breakdowns, we've got your Saturday mornings covered. Wake up, chow down, and cheer on. Carolina mornings start here with Waking Up Proud. Saturday mornings, 9 to 11 on WSJS. The morning show that feels like home. We're going to get right into High Point basketball's coverage here for you on the Proud Panthers podcast. But I do want to say, don't forget, live radio is where you can also find me in the Triad. Really anywhere, though. If you just go to WSJS.com, 9 to 11 on Saturday mornings, I have a show. And like I said, lots of exciting things on the way, so stay tuned to that. I'd already mentioned a little bit, and I wanted to start here because things that I've been doing, it's evolved, it's spread out now, and folks that maybe have jumped into supporting Proud Sports and the podcast here, maybe they jumped in after the fact. We want to rewind for a second, all the way back to the first episode that I ever did for the Proud Panthers podcast. And on that episode, I shared a few things that would be kind of like cornerstones or keystones of what I look to do here. Passion project, something I was excited about. First up is I formerly worked with the team. The 07 to 09 stretch is when that was. And so what you get with me when it comes to covering High Point basketball is I've had the inside perspective. It's changed because the whole college sport, and playground that it is has changed. But I don't know another way to really put this. Unless you've seen it up close and personal like I have, there's things you still are missing out on, and you probably wouldn't really understand. The second to that is because of my own personal beliefs, I'm unwilling to utilize this platform as just like a bash fest, as a way to just degrade people and tear them down. Now, when it comes to sports coverage, when it comes to sports involvement, even from a fan, we all have our opinions. That's the beauty of it. We all like to talk about it and share thoughts and, hey, what do you think about this? And man, this is what I saw. That is definitely going to happen. And so some of that involves having critical thoughts about stuff, but you can do it in a healthy way, because at the end of the day, what I hope people will realize and remember is that these dudes are human, just like you, me. They're going to make mistakes, and it's unhealthy and just not useful of my time to just utilize this as a way to just completely tear people apart. The third component to it, though, is that because of me seeing things really up close and personal, but even more so, I'm a rabid supporter and fan, and all I desire for High Point basketball is success. Because of that, I am not going to be a get out in front, breaking news type of person. And there's two real reasons why that is. The first is the one that should make the most sense to other fans, and that is competitive advantages are real things in sports. They've changed now that coverage is a lot wider and deeper than it's ever been. But ultimately, it's hard to keep information, keep secrets, keep things that you don't want other opponents to really know. It's hard to keep those under wraps. So I only share information that is either in a time frame that wouldn't give an opponent as much of an advantage if they knew it earlier, quicker, or more about it sooner. Or I share information if it's been something that the team, the program, or maybe a staff person has approved, that has said like, hey, yeah, you can share that, or it's coming directly from them. Now, when it's my own opinions, I usually try to make that really clear too, because I don't want there to be any kind of confusion between fact and between perception. So I share all of that because Cam Fletcher and his involvement in the team this week became a greater question, a greater talking point than it had been previous to High Point's loss to Winthrop 92-75. You see, his last game playing was in Asheville. We won that game. And since that time, we've run off 3 wins where, yes, there's still been the question. There's still been the wondering of like, where's Cam and what's going on there? And why is he not playing? But that's different and not as much of a talking point, or if you want to call it a concern of an issue, until we lost a game. Just yesterday, social media. I'm an Rico rider too. I like Barstool Sports, love their coverage, think it's great content. Rico Bosco puts out, hey, I heard that Cam Fletcher has been, kicked off the team in High Point. I immediately took that to the program and confirmed that as false. I'm not going to be somebody that tries to, breaking news, Adam Schefter here, this is what's going on with Cam Fletcher and High Point University basketball, and try to get it out there before it's actually been vetted and it's realistic information, because of exact reasons, just like Bosco yesterday. And why does that kind of stuff happen? Again, because we just came out of a loss, and we lost in a way that was very alarming. So as we still consider Cam's situation, I want to start by saying the latest that I have at recording time, and this is vetted information, this is fact information. If you're looking for realistic items, I hope I'll be your guy on that. A lot of times it's at Stephen Beck PS, or when not there, definitely check out the Proud Panthers podcast here. Cam is still a student. He's still on the team. And it's still an internal matter being handled by the program. That's where we are as of recording time. Whether or not he plays against Upstate this weekend, or that he's played in the previous games leading up, I always go and I try to get that information direct from the program, and I wait to share it until a time that I feel like competitively doesn't put High Point's program in such a disadvantage that it's blatantly obvious. In other words, for me, during warmups and early shoot-arounds, it becomes rather clear that, okay, a player may not be playing, and that's an appropriate time to share it. But too early, I feel like now it gives an opponent a better chance to, okay, well, Cam's not playing. We need to shift our thought process. Our tactics are going to be a little bit different now. I also feel that it's my opinion and very important to say that the way we lost to Winthrop on Wednesday, where the game score-wise was over at halftime, it just was. 53-29 deficit there for High Point. And the way that we were playing, it was over. We had already lost halfway through the game. But I feel like it's necessary to say that would have Cam helped in that game? Absolutely. I think that having him would be a difference. But would it be the difference to the outcome? I don't think so. We're going to break down more on this game in a second, but I just have to say, like, the way that we were playing in the first half, I don't think one player makes the difference. And I've said that pretty steadily throughout this Cam story. I think that he is arguably the most talented player on the team. I think that his abilities give us a much better opportunity. I think that it would be much more helpful to have him on the team. But I also think that having players working as a team, 5 guys on the floor as a unit, is much more important to the success than having just 5 guys that are super talented, but they're all out there for themselves. They're all doing their own thing. They're not working together as a unit, and they're just going in different directions. And the first half on Wednesday night in Rock Hill, we had a lot of guys that were out there, and those guys they're all talented players. But were they playing as a unit? Were they doing the things necessary to go on the road against a competent opponent and be competitive and potentially come away with a win? At the start of our season, and I have the receipts for this on proudsports.com. If you just go back and search High Point stuff there in our designated High Point tab now, and look for these articles. They were back before we ever even started playing games. I had 2 questions for our team coming up. One is, who's going to get the rebounds? You lose a guy like Bodo, you can go back. It's obvious. It's obvious that is going to become a concern where you have to change how you approach that element of the game. The number 2 concern I had coming into the season was, who's going to be the mean mug? In other words, looking back at a record-breaking season, making the NCAA tournament, the elements that made that up, in large part for me, was a combination of a few things, but primarily, yes, talent, but also buying in and all being on the same page and all willing to do whatever that took to get themselves to success. And it was visible with the passion and the mentality that they were willing to play with in the most difficult moments. That second question in the games that we've stumbled has been a pretty consistent question for me. Sometimes the quick knee-jerk talking point is, well, can the staff, can the coaches somehow get these guys to focus in more or to buy in more or to will them on, encourage them on to this point? As a coach, yeah, I think that's an aspect of what you do. I mean, you're a teacher, you're an instructor, but you're also an encourager, and you're there for them, and you're going through all the same battles. And yes, they do that. But there was commentary directly out of Coach Huss a lot last year. And I know this really caught the attention of Brian Wilmer at Sports Matters on X. We're going to be sharing some of the things that he received because he was at this game on Wednesday night. But I just know, in talking with him before, he's rewound back to this several times. And that is, Coach Huss made the comment that the team needed to go from coach fed to player led. In other words, not the coaching staff saying, guys, this is what we got to do. You got to do this. We got to encourage you. We got to get you on this level. It went from that to the players, the guys out there on the court, playing the game, on the roster, leading that themselves. I don't know that we've seen that from this team of players this season. I don't think we have. My disappointment in the way this game transpired on Wednesday, the score being down by 30 points or whatever the largest lead was. In fact, I have it here. Largest lead for the Eagles on Wednesday night was 25. So 25 points. I don't care if it was that or 2 or 1 point game. The way that we were playing in the first half, you have 0.0 chance of being successful. Turnovers, not getting back on defense, not really making it a designated must to stop the ball and stop transition. Effort plays, just kind of doing what we want on the offensive end, taking shots that may have been not the best choice. And I've said, and this is what it also partially comes down to, but on a difficult shooting night, while we're talking shooting, and it was that, you got to have other things that you can fall back on and say, well, we're still going to have a chance. And it goes back to all the other things that when this team has been the most successful, we have done. The way that we have won games where we're at our best, to me, has been rather obvious. Where we started the season as a team that had put a lot of energy and emphasis in the offseason on defense and playing that at a certain way, at times we've slid away from that and we've gotten out of a rhythm that is an obvious way that we need to be playing. That is getting deflections, being active, steals and turnovers forced, and taking anything, could be a missed shot all the way down to one of those turnovers, anything on the defensive end, and quickly transitioning that into offense on the opposite side. When we do those things, we're at our best. When we're unable to do those things, or maybe just mentally unwilling, which is my question from the first half the other night, do we have the toughness? Do we have the grit? Are we too passive? Are we able to overcome difficulty, or do we just give in and give up? Now, a lot of this has sounded negative. My quick positive comment is, in the second half, we outscored Winthrop 46-39, meaning we didn't just mail it in the second half, and I'm appreciative of that. I made commentary of that. I'm doing it again here to say it would have been very easy. Game was over at halftime. Psst, I don't care. Not even going to try in the second half. Didn't do that. And that is a big win right there. But it's not enough. It's got to be for 40 minutes. And that's where we've got to be. We've done this. We've done that a few times this year, where we've had spells. We let a team get back in the game. We've had spells where it's just like we shut down and everything goes wrong at the same time. Like it's like a big brain fart. I know I've said that. For 40 minutes, it's got to be lock in. It's got to be full on effort. It's got to be, hey, I'm mean mugging this season. I don't care what it is. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And there's a few on the roster that I have seen that, but not everybody. And I'm not going to single them out. I'm just going to tell you, if people could watch Terry Anderson and replicate a lot of the things that he has done this season, and he's not perfect, don't get me wrong. There's times where I know everybody makes these mistakes, but in large part, that would be a person that has been the mean mug for High Point this year. He just wants to win. There were a lot of questions over Logan Duncombe. I could go for 2 hours on this game the other night, but I'm trying to keep this timely for a lot of reasons. But Logan Duncombe is a player that has clearly improved during his time with the Eagles. And I knew coming in, he's going to present the biggest challenge for us, being a team that doesn't, I would say, rely upon a dominant big man. I shared going into the game, really the only other opponent that I would say may challenge Winthrop as, you know, having a player they rely upon down in the post is Longwood, aside from Winthrop. And Winthrop has been hanging their hat on Duncombe all year. Before I talk about the way that we really should have played him and that I feel like he could be beat and stopped, I have to say, I've never seen a player get the Charmin benefit of the Big South officials more than Logan on Wednesday night. I mean, you want to see me just enraged over officiating? The whistle that this dude had was, I would say, arguably a better whistle than the primetime premier players get in the NBA. And in the NBA, they don't want their superstars being out. They don't want them injured. They don't want their superstars not being successful, because that's what sells tickets. That's branding. That's everything. And the officials buy into that and play into that as well. And I'm telling you right now, the way that crew called anything remotely that got close to Duncombe was absurd. and soft and weak. You sneeze on the dude, you're getting whistled for a foul. That's going to present challenges in how you go about defending somebody like him to begin with. But I still think there were ways that we should have went about it that I disagree with. I think we should have done something different. The first is you can't obviously throw one guy at him for the entirety of a game because of what I just aforementioned. I knew that going in. But the ones that you throw at him at different times, I do think is important. I would have liked to have seen Terry matched up with him, honestly, more than anybody in the game, and I don't think we ever got to that point. I know that may have presented a different matchup elsewhere, but I would be willing to risk that matchup because I feel like a competitor like Terry would have presented a very interesting challenge for Duncombe if we're just talking about a one-on-one scenario. Aside from that, the other two things is, I think on the defensive end, you got to be extremely physical with this dude. You got to be willing to push him off of his game. I feel like inside of him, there's still a very soft player that I've seen in the past. He's got very good skills around the basket, but I'm just telling you, you got to rattle this dude somehow. And I don't think we ever got to that point. The other would be on the offensive end, you got to take it to him. And I think that's part of the rattling. You got to get down in there and you've got to bang and beat and try to score and try to take him to the bucket and try to be physical with him on the offensive end as much as you do on the defensive end. Just consider yourself in that place where you are Logan and defending a player that is equally scoring 20s of points. That's going to be frustrating internally if you're the one defending them. And that frustration builds and it usually results in problems for the player that you're looking to rattle. So I know that's very general kind of commentary. Again, I'm not a direct coach. It's just what I see. I felt like Caden needed to be also challenging him more than what we ended up with in total. Caden got 5 minutes in the game. I realized we tried some other things with J.I., and that's fair. That's fine. But I just feel like Caden is a bruiser. He has got a build and really ultimately a mentality that is far beyond his years as a freshman that would be willing to go down there, do the dirty work, do some stuff that, again, we need to do against a big man that is clearly the game plan of success for Winthrop. They're going to play inside out this year, and rightfully so. Sharman soft, though. 10 of 12 from the free throw line is crazy talk. And a lot of the fouls even whistled on him didn't lead directly to free throws for Duncombe. I mean, it's absurd the way that they were calling that. So that's also a contributor here. I don't want to gloss over. I have to say, if you don't come away from a game like this where you get thumped, and I mentioned Brian Wilmer earlier, I'll mention him again now. He had some good quotes from Coach Clayman after the game, and one of those, without being a direct quote, essentially said, hey, we've been kind of teetering on this type of reckoning for a while. If you don't come away out of a game like this, getting thumped, and you've been teetering around that, and it's not some type of wake-up call, then we're going to have problems the whole way through. And doesn't matter about the talent. It doesn't matter really about the coaches. It's got to come from the players on the roster out there on the court. Coach Fed is fine for a while. Player-led, everybody buying in, doing whatever it is, and doing it in a way that shows toughness and not being passive and just 100,000, 20 bajillion% willing is where you got to get to for the most success that a team could offer. Some of the quick commentary as to others' thoughts and questions that I know had been shared with me, and I want to address them. I appreciate it. Proud Panthers, spaces and all that kind of stuff. It's been a little different lately because of my own scheduling. And, I do apologize about that. But what I could say is questions about trying to get better chemistry, or maybe it's not enough size. Outside of Terry, who else can we consistently rely upon? I mean, there's so many things here that I could go through and answer, but really, ultimately, it all comes back to the one I've already stated, and that is, okay, who can we rely upon other than Terry? The answer is it's got to be all 5 guys on the floor, not just one. Said that earlier, can't be Cam when he comes back, if he does come back. Is it a size problem? No, I don't think you have to have a 7-foot Bodo to get rebounds. I think it's a tactics and an effort problem. You see the ball go up. If you're not all turning around, finding a man boxing out, I don't care if you have a 7-foot Bodo or not, there's going to be rebounds that you should have gotten that you don't. The defense got a ton of attention at the start of the year. What happened there? Yeah, you're right. Because we got away from the game plan where we're most successful, I shared earlier. We're not getting out in transition. We're not forcing turnovers. We're not forcing difficulty for the other team. We're being too passive. And when we do that, we're an easier team to beat. Shooting matches are fine when your shooting is successful. We had a tough shooting night, and we've had it a few times this year. And I would also mention that Winthrop had a very good shooting night. When you shoot 54% from the floor, that's good. So when things are tough, you got to have the other answers, and we didn't have those. I'll be happy to share commentary in timely manners on Cam. That'll be at Stephen Beck PS most likely, so I hope you'll follow along there. We do have a game coming up against Upstate, who just beat Charleston Southern on Wednesday. And that one, it is at home, fortunately. Like I shared as well, we're kind of coming out of a stretch of really difficult road games, and we start getting some of these teams back in our own environment. The only one outlier of that is Longwood. I would say that's probably arguably our most difficult game left on the schedule because it's on the road. These other guys, fortunately, they'll be inside the Cobain Center, and that is a place where we have performed much better historically. So all of that can trend in positive directions. But the Big South tournament is not inside the Cobain Center, and it's not a guarantee that we can just get into these shootouts and we can just do whatever and we have success. So I hope and I desire that this has been a wake-up call. I hope and I desire that the best ways that we've performed this year is something we go back to, and that is, man, we got to hang our hat on that strategy as opposed to, the way that we've gotten in trouble. Questions, concerns, thoughts, always welcome. At Stephen Beck PS or 336-347-9807 text line. More on the next Proud Panther podcast.